Hello, my name is Amy Heyse. This is my cat Scully, and in today's tutorial, I'm going to be walking you through how to make an origami St. George and the Dragon. Growing up, my husband loved reading St. George and the Dragon by Margaret Hodges and illustrated by Trina Shart Hyman, so I knew I wanted to do a project to celebrate his feast day on April 23rd. I love origami, and the best thing about this project is that you get to make both St. George and a dragon that can flap its wings. When I made a practice version of this project, my cat Scully decided that she wanted to be a dragon and ate my St. George. If you have ever folded an origami crane, it's a similar base for both designs. The dragon is a modified origami flapping bird design, and the St. George is created using Joel Stern's knight with lance and shield pattern. The knight is more of an intermediate or advanced design, but I'll try my best to show the steps as simply as possible. For this project, all you need is a square piece of paper or origami paper, one for George and one for the dragon. I chose gray and green as my colors. You can also use colored pencils to add designs to the shield like I did. If you need to revisit a step that I demonstrate, you can always hit rewind or move forward if you're ready for the next step. First thing that you're going to do is you're going to take your paper and fold it in half. So you put the colored side of the paper down on the table and fold the paper in half like a rectangle. Make sure the corners match up and crease nice and crisp across the bottom. You're going to open up your paper and do the same thing, folding the opposite direction. Fold that rectangle, match up the corners, and you're going to make sure that you're creasing straight across the bottom. We're going to open up the paper, turn it diagonally, and we're going to fold it into a triangle this time. So you're going to match up the corners and crease across the bottom of the paper. We're going to fold that triangle in half, so match up the corners and then crease across the bottom. To turn that paper sideways and lift up one of the edges, and that's going to create this pocket. So you're going to put your fingers inside of that side edge and push down on the crease lines that you already made to make the square. When we flip the paper around, we're going to do the exact same thing, kind of lift up that side edge, put our finger inside to create that pocket, and we're going to push down into the square, creasing on the lines that we already had from earlier. So this is called a bird base, and we want to put our paper where the open part is up at the top and it's closed at the bottom. We're going to make kind of like a paper airplane fold where it's skinny at the top and wide at the base. And you're going to crease that down flat, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side, keeping it skinny at the top, wide at the base, kind of like a Christmas tree. So you're going to push that down nice and crisp. And once you get that crease down, we're going to be flipping the paper to the other side, and we're going to repeat the same steps, keeping it skinny up at the top and wide at the base, and making sure that we're creasing nice and flat. We're going to do the same thing on that opposite side, so it definitely kind of has a Christmas tree or a kite-shaped look when you are all done creasing that flat. So where those flaps are, we're going to take the bottom edge of the paper and we're going to fold it up until it hits the flaps, and you're going to crease that nice and straight across the bottom. You're going to pull that down and you're going to kind of open those little flaps. Going to take the top part of the paper and we're going to pull it down, kind of folding it on that crease line from earlier. And when you open it, it kind of looks like a little boat. We're going to fold the sides of that paper flat, and you want to make sure that where you're folding it is where you creased your paper earlier, and that creates kind of a diamond shape like this. And we're going to be doing the same steps on the opposite side of our paper. So you're going to turn your paper to the other side, lift open the flaps. You're going to kind of hold at that crease and pull the top part of the origami down on the crease. And we are going to open it up into that boat shape, and you're going to crease those sides in on the crease lines that you had already created earlier. So it creates that diamond shape. And sometimes I have to kind of get my fingers inside of the origami to crease it nice and flat. So after you get that diamond shape, it's open on one end and the other side is that closed triangle part. So we're going to flip it so it's open down at the bottom, and we're going to be folding the sides in towards that middle. So it's going to be pointy down at the bottom and a little bit wider up at the top. We're going to flip the paper to the other side and repeat the same steps. So skinny down at the base where it's open and a little bit wider at the top. So that creates one side that's skinny and one that's a little fatter. So the side that's skinny is eventually going to be the head, and we're going to lift that up towards the left, kind of lining it up with the edge of our paper, and we're going to crease it flat. We're going to do the same thing with the fat side, kind of lifting it up and towards the right and creasing along the bottom. So these creases are going to help keep the paper in place when we create something called an inverse fold. You're going to turn your paper sideways and open up that gap, and you're going to push the skinny part up and inside. So you're kind of stopping where you originally creased, and when you kind of push it back flat, it makes a thinner edge for that paper. And this is going to be for the neck and the head of our dragon. So I'm just kind of straightening that up. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to open up that side edge. We're going to lift the paper up until it kind of catches on that crease from earlier. And when you push it down flat, that creates the back edge of the tail. If you want the head or the tail to come out a little bit wider, you can pull those side edges. And we're going to take the top skinny part and we're going to be creasing that down to bend that neck downwards to create the shape of the head. So if you're familiar with origami cranes, this is where you would create the beak. It kind of pushes it down and in. But we want to take that pointy part and we want to actually fold it up and backwards to create the horn of the dragon. So you fold it kind of in between and kind of pinch it tight, and that creates that dragon's head with a little horn up at the top. To create the tail, we're going to bend the tail downwards to create some creases first. So you're going to fold down, and we're going to fold the back part of the tail up a little bit. So it's kind of like a zigzag. When we open up the tail, we're going to kind of come from the side and push the paper down and inside, kind of creasing along that crease that we made earlier. And we're going to do the same thing for that other part of the tail. We're going to open up the paper and push it up that middle a little bit and kind of pinch it back down flat. And that is going to create that zigzag of the tail. And you can kind of adjust your paper however you wish. To create the wings, we're going to put our paper down flat and we're going to fold one of the wings down so the front edge is a little bit higher and the back edge is a little bit lower. It kind of gets pulled down as far as you can move the paper downwards, and you're going to crease that flat. So we're going to do an accordion fold for our wing. So we want the paper a little bit thinner up near the head and a little bit wider at the base. And you're going to fold the wing up, crease the paper flat, and we're going to fold the paper down, kind of lining it up with the back edge of our first wing fold. So you're going to line up your paper, crease it, and then we're going to fold it back up, so skinnier at the head, a little bit wider at the base, but always kind of lining it up with our previous folds. You can do this however many times you can get it to fit. And once you crease all that part of the wing, it kind of opens up like an accordion. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to fold that wing down so it is lower on that left edge, higher near the head. And when we do that accordion fold, we want to make sure that it is thinner near the head and wider at the end of the wing. You're going to fold the paper flat and then fold it back down, always making sure that the part that is closest to the head is a little bit skinnier and that each of your folds kind of lines up with the previous fold that you had done before. Just however many or few that you can fit. And when you crease it nice and flat, as many times as you can open it up to create the accordion wing for the dragon. And the way you get it to flap is you hold the dragon on the head and you pull that back tail. And sometimes it's a little stiff at the beginning. So if you kind of open up the wings and then you kind of slowly pull, you can eventually get that dragon to start flapping. And that is how you create the dragon for this project. For St. George, it's a very similar base. So you put your colored side of the paper down on the table and you're gonna fold it flat like a rectangle. So you match up the corners and then you crease nice and straight across the bottom. You're gonna open up that paper, turn it, and fold it in a rectangle the opposite direction so we can get all those crease lines that are going to make the project easier to open later. You're going to open up the paper again, turn it, and fold it like a triangle this time, making sure that the top points match and the bottom is creased nice and straight. We're going to fold that triangle shape in half again, and you're going to make sure that the points match before creasing flat. You're going to open up the paper so part of that triangle stands straight upwards, and you're going to put your hand inside the pocket of that side to push it down flat like a square. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, so you're going to lift that side of the triangle so it's kind of straight up and down, and you're going to put your hand inside of that pocket and push down on the creases that we had done earlier to create that base. So it is open at the top and closed down at the bottom. And we're going to be doing a paper airplane fold where we fold to that center line, skinnier at the top, a little bit wider at the base. And you're going to crease that nice and flat. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. So skinny up at the top, wider at the base, and they're touching in the center. And it kind of reminds me of a Christmas tree, skinny at the top, wide at the base. We're going to be turning that paper to the opposite side and repeating the same steps. So paper airplane fold, skinny at the top, wide at the base, and matching on that other side, making sure that they touch in the center and creasing nice and flat. So the bottom part, we need to fold that up until it hits the edges of those flaps that we previously folded. So you're going to crease that flat, fold that down. We're going to open up the flaps and kind of keeping the bottom crease together, you're going to open up your paper to create that kind of paper boat look. We're going to fold the sides in towards the middle, and you're going to crease that down flat so it's a diamond shape. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So we're going to turn our paper to the other side. We're going to open up the flaps and open up this part so it kind of folds on that crease from earlier. We're going to push the side edges in towards the middle, and you can use your fingers to kind of help open up those gaps as needed. But when you're all done, it kind of has a long diamond shape when you are finished. So that diamond shape, we want to make sure that we have one part that's open and the other part's closed, and we want the open part to be down at the bottom. We're going to take those edges and we're going to fold it up until that crease line of the diamond and kind of fold it out into the side and do the same thing on the other side, making sure that they kind of match up against that crease line. And we're going to open up the flaps, and we're going to turn the paper to the side, kind of opening up that side edge and folding the paper up, kind of inverse folding it inside the paper and pushing down flat so it's nice and straight and flat. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to open up that side edge and push the paper up until it kind of hits the crease lines from before, and we're going to fold that paper down nice and flat like so. So we need to take those side edges and make them skinnier. So if you open them up, we're going to fold them kind of like a paper airplane. So it's thin at the edge and it's a little bit wider closer to the main part of the origami. And you're folding it to that center crease line. You're going to do that both on the top side as well as on the bottom. And once you crease that nice and flat, you're going to take that paper and kind of fold it down again. So that just makes it nice and skinny. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side, opening it up, folding it so that it is thinner on the edge, wider closer to the main part of the origami, and doing the same thing on the top to kind of match it in the middle. And then you're going to fold it back down. That way it creates just a nice skinny edge like this. Then you're going to take this top part of the origami and you're going to fold it down flat. And we're going to do something called a rabbit ear fold on this middle triangle part. So you're going to fold it kind of like you're folding an airplane, skinny on one side, a little bit wider at the base, but you're going to open it up and repeat that kind of paper airplane fold, but on the other side. So it's skinny on that left, a little bit wider on the right. And when you open up the paper, you have kind of like this X shape across the middle. And we're going to be kind of pinching the paper in on both the left and the right side. And that's going to create this rabbit ear in the middle. And we're going to kind of pinch that, and we're going to be folding that rabbit ear part. Instead of in the middle, we're going to fold it over and towards the left side, like this. You're going to make sure that rabbit ear stays going towards the left, and we're going to fold the origami in half like this, and making sure that we crease all the way down the edges. And what we're going to do next is we're going to take the top part of our main part of origami, and we're going to kind of pull it down and inside that pocket gap. And we're going to kind of pinch it on the edge, and we're just going to keep pulling it slowly and slowly until it kind of meets up with the skinny pointy parts on that right side. So once you've gotten it pulled over as far as you can, you're going to fold the paper down nice and flat like this. We also want that top part of the paper to be skinny, kind of like the part that's underneath. So you're going to open up the paper, and we're going to fold the paper in like a paper airplane, kind of towards that center crease line. We want it skinnier on that right edge and wider at the left side. And we're going to do the same thing on the top, making sure that we kind of meet it in the middle towards that crease, making it skinnier on one edge, a little bit wider on the other side. And then we're going to fold it back up like so. And this is going to just create that skinny edge that's going to be used for the sword later on in our origami. So the bottom part, those bottom skinny edges, those are going to become the legs. So the top one, you're going to fold it down and towards the left, and you're just going to crease that down nice and flat, kind of tucking it underneath that other spot. The bigger piece is going to become the shield. So we're going to take the paper, and you're going to crease it up until you can feel the rest of the main part of the origami underneath. So you're just kind of creasing it as far up as it's going to go. Then you're going to crease it so it matches up with that original crease line that you had just folded to create a little triangle. We're going to slip our finger inside of this side edge pocket, and we're going to push the paper kind of up and squashing that down flat. And this is going to create the shield. You can kind of adjust the angle as you need, but it looks kind of like a kite shape when it's all folded. And keep it looking pointed the way it is now, or if you want it to look a little bit more squared off, you can take the skinny pointy part of that shield and you can fold it behind the origami and crease it flat, and that's going to tuck that bottom part of the shield behind to create a more squared off version. If you turn your paper a little bit down, you can start to see the legs, the shield, and this part right here is going to be the sword. So you're going to pull it up, and you can decide the angle that you want that sword to go. You can have it higher or lower, and you're going to create a crease line before you open up the side and kind of invert that fold by folding it up and in and kind of folding it flat on the crease line that you had created earlier. Even after you create that fold, you can always adjust the angle of the sword the way that you want, and you just make sure that it's the angle that you want, and you pinch the paper down flat to get it to crease where you would like. Next, we're going to be working on the feet. So down at the bottom, you're going to start off by creasing the paper up to create the length of the foot. You can make these as big or as small as you like. So once you crease it, that's going to help you to create the inverse or reverse folds for those little feet. So you kind of open up the side of the leg and you push the paper up and pinch the foot down at the bottom to get that to crease up and flat for one foot. The opposite leg, you just want to make sure that you open up the leg on that side edge, and this time you're going to be pushing in the foot up and inside that gap, and that's going to help keep that foot secure in place. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to be working on the head, and the best way I can describe it is we're going to be kind of opening up this side pocket, and we're going to squish this head down. So as you open it, you kind of start to pinch the side edges of the paper while simultaneously pushing it down. And that's kind of pinching and squishing that head downwards. You can kind of see the hint of the jawline and angle, but it kind of takes a lot of effort to push it and pinch it. And that creates that edge of the face like this. And you can leave it like that, but if you want to give him a helmet, you want to open up that back edge, and you're going to be kind of pulling the paper over the top part of the head, kind of creating a hood. So you pull the paper over, you kind of have to like work the paper to get it to fold over George's head. But once you kind of get that hood shape and you pinch it flat, that creates the helmet shape for George. So it should look kind of like a triangle helmet when you are finished. And once you get that helmet all finished, unless there's anything else you want to add, you are all done with your St. George origami. I used colored pencils to color in some of his features. So I added a face, I added a cross to his shield, and I just used colored pencils, but you of course can use any art supply that you wish. And I just want to say thank you so much for following along with today's tutorial. I hope that you had fun working on your St. George and the dragon. If you followed along, please tag me on social media. I would love to see how yours turned out, and know that I post new Catholic inspired art tutorials here on my channel every month. Another way that you can help support my channel is through my Buy Me a Coffee page and art supply wish list. I want to remind you that you are loved, God loves you very much, and He loves your artwork very much. Thank you so much for folding along with me, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.